Well, welcome. Today we are going to be working on a, well, I wouldn't call it a tarot review. So these two decks are the same deck. So I'm not going to be comparing them in the fact that they're going to have different concepts or ideas. This is a very, very modern Rider Waite Tarot Deck. It was purchased maybe a month ago at tops. It hasn't been very long, it's probably under a month. And this, wrapped in a pretty cloth, is a much older deck. Now, I'm not sure how old it is, to be frankly honest. It was passed down to me. So, as you can see, the external side is slightly diminished when it comes to color. You have sort of an off-white versus your standard bright white. The top of the box, much larger print. This has got a box to it. This was apparently printed in Switzerland, the older one, and the newer one was produced by US Game Systems Incorporated. So, back in the 70s, the patent or trademark for this particular deck, the patent ran out, I guess. I don't know how else you call that, where it's no longer, doesn't belong to anybody in particular. So US Games Systems picked up the deck and have been producing it, and there have been many other types of companies that have been producing this deck. But as you can see, they have pretty faithfully recreated the previous deck down to the pattern on the back, which actually, now that I'm looking at it, is slightly different, but it's pretty close. And I don't know if that's a color thing because this is an older one or not, but see, this is a full card and this is an ace. Let's see what I have. This is the full card here, so just slightly different, I guess. Maybe you can't see the differences on the camera, but I can see them in person. So you got a very shiny backing to a completely non-shiny, completely matte finish on the previous deck. And let's continue to work with the Fool here. And you can notice some color differences. The printing is bigger on this one, and the colors are just slightly different. I don't know if that's from use or age, but there's way more red in the original Mountains. There's way more white in the newer deck. So, but the imagery is basically the same. You see that there's some pigment stippling on this one, and this one's a little bit more smooth. You can see it in the face. I don't know. Yeah, you could definitely see that. And there's some imperfections in coloring in the feather in the old one. So, but essentially they are the same card, and I think that they probably had the outlines, because the lines are very much the same, so they probably had to have a different colorist come in and work on these. There's the trademark in the corner for the new one. There's no trademark on this card. The lines for the sun, if you can see, the lines in the corner are exactly the same, so you would have to assume that while the text is different, the actual picture of the Fool itself is exactly the same. So let's set the Fool aside. move on to the Magician. So, I feel like there's less differences except for, again, the Magician text here is crisper. Well, this is a little bit more of a blocky type of thing. And again, there's different colors, like a more red color in the skin. It's kind of a lighter orange peachish color. And the strange thing, now that I'm looking at this, is that the new card actually accents the red in the table more. You can see this is the old card and there's more lines to the red in this one. So I'm gonna move this aside. My hand keeps getting warm every time I do that. So, and in the new card, the old card, if you see the wand, it doesn't have any red color in it at all, but there's some bleed over from the table in the new card. So I find that fascinating. There's a much darker gray in the belt here than in the previous one, and the lines in the white robe, this is much darker than this one. They're more subtle in the original. And the little infinity symbol is definitely thicker, a little bit darker. So I guess I could go through the whole deck and peel off cards and show you them one by one, but I feel like we'll pick something at random, see if there's some differences that we notice. So we'll pick this one. So the Ten of Swords, I'm going to find the Ten of Swords in the older deck. Okay. So, Ten of Swords. This is the newer one, this is the older one. Taking just a look at it, I feel like this card is way closer to the original than the previous ones. I don't know. There's something about the tops of these swords. There's like a bluer color, and you know, honestly, I don't know if the color difference is because this is matte here and this is like a gloss finish. So maybe that's why the colors seem different to me. What do you think? Do you see much of a difference? I feel like this card is actually pretty close to the original. There's a little bit extra border on top of the old card than there's the new one. It's a bit thinner on top, but and on the bottom. But I'm not really sure. I feel like I picked a card that they pretty much look identical. There seems to be more pronounced in the tops of the swords. You can see this one, it's not very pronounced where the blue sort of shadowing, which is like a white. It's like a white shadowing. It's not very pronounced in this one, but it's extremely pronounced, and you can see it really easy on this one, on the newer card. I find that interesting. Guess we can look at more of the major arcana because they are so very, very iconic. Let's see. This is the page. Okay. Flip you over. All right. And I feel like there's just color difference in the High Priestess. So this is definitely white and black, and this is definitely black and gray when it comes to the pillars. The older card definitely has it more of a clear white color. It's more of a green bleed between the moon and her robe at the bottom where it's very crisp between the blue and the yellow on the bottom here. So I'm just gonna have to assume that they had to have a different colorist when they brought this stuff over. Or maybe they used different coloring and pigments back when this one was originally created. And of course, you can never discount the fact that this was owned by a witch back when it was originally created, and has probably been used more times than I can count. It's in exceptionally good condition. The only missing piece of the box, even though it's in rough shape, is this piece here, and this is something that I did. That was here at one point in time. And I've had this deck for, oh, I don't know. 7 years maybe? So, move on to the Empress. Let's see. The green tree in the background is way more pronounced in this one than this one, although you can see it. It's more of a greenish color, and it's more of a like a yellowish green in this color. And this is definitely a green inside the female mark, and this is definitely a yellow inside of it, although it's kind of a olivey green yellow color, but it's definitely more yellow than green. It's amazing having them side by side, all the details that you notice in the cards, because there are slight differences in the coloring. I wasn't sure how fascinating this would be or not for a viewer, but for me, this is downright unbelievable. There's a much darker shading on his armor, on his arm, in this card than in this card. This is almost like a dark blue. This one's like it's a black to it. Am I comparing apples and oranges? It's the same deck, but it's created years apart. What do you think? All I know is that the Rider Waite Tarot Deck has been so iconic for such a long time. I can have a deck that's nearly 50 years old in one hand and brand new in the other, and to have them be nearly identical, I have to take a look at the coloration to tell the difference between them. It's pretty impressive that this deck has come through this long, and this deck was originally created in the 1800s. So the fact that these images have survived this long intact with only very small changes in coloration, I feel is pretty amazing. The mountain in this one is way different than the mountain in that one. Look at that. That's amazing. That's a detail that I never noticed before. Just, you know, sometimes you get a little distracted by the naked people. But there's like a shading in this one where you can see like the side of the mountain, it's got some light to it. And this one entirely just looks like a mountain in the background. There's not a lot of different shades to it. It's like someone turned up the contrast on the angel too. It's much darker in this one than it is in this one. There's a lot of details in this one. And the green in the snake and the tree behind the woman is much lighter shade in this card than it is in this card. And it's much darker detailing around that too. Now, other than a little bit more contrast, this one seems pretty similar. I don't see a huge amount of differences. It's just darker. The original card is much, much darker. I mean, every single card, the text at the bottom is different, but not that different. It just fills the card better in the old card, and this one, it just has space on the sides. But, I mean, if you take a look at it, really, really close. This is one of those cards where there's not a ton of difference, except for just things are a little bit darker in the old card. Now this one I always thought was fascinating. I love the Strength card. I'm a huge fan of this card, being a Leo, and this card comes up for me all the time, Inner Strength. This card, the lion almost looks red, like deep red. This one, he's a little bit more orange, but even that's barely noticeable. And see a lot more hair in this one, and this one she's got way more crown. Yeah, this was one of those that I didn't expect a lot of differences on. This is the Hermit card. Besides the lettering and a slight darkness to the skin, I'd say these were nearly identical. They're very, very close. Of course, this is kind of a simple card, so I'm not really surprised that they were able to duplicate that one much, much easier than some of the other more detailed cards. And this one, the reds in the old cards seem to be more red. This seems to be more orange. The wheel is only a couple of shades lighter than the Anubis, the red Anubis looking creature in this card. For this one, they look absolutely different shades. This is a much lighter orange, and he's definitely a red. But the colorations with the sphinxes and the angel and the eagle and the winged bull and the griffin, they're pretty good. Pretty identical. I don't know. I think if I put both of these in switch decks, I wouldn't know which one was which. I don't think I'd know which one was the old one. Probably the only thing that would give it away would be the lettering at the bottom, which gives it away for all of them. There's something just so distinctive about this particular lettering that they had in the original deck. And I'm not even saying this is the original, because there was like an 1800s version of this. It's probably way more original than even what I have here. Yes, this is another one that I expected not to be too different. In fact, this is another one of those that probably only the text would give it away, because I feel like the coloring is just perfect. It's absolutely perfect. It's a perfect match. Yeah. I really don't see much difference. I mean, maybe the tunic is slightly lighter in the old card, but other than that, dead on. There's a lot of detail in this card. This is the Death card. And, oh wow, look. They cropped it differently. The very, very bottom of the card, you can see a crown. I don't know if you guys can see it very well. It's right by the horse's foot. You can see most of the crown in this one, and you can see it's partly missing in that one. And even the bottom of the peasant's feet, here, it's missing. This has all the peasant's leg. The peasant's leg is going down into the bottom of the card. Looks like they cropped the bottom of it so that the horse's foot was at the very, very bottom of the card instead of giving just like increments of space. The ground next to the peasants is green in this one, where it's just yellow in this one. And the horse is a little bit more gray in the original than when it's way more white. But there's so much detail. The detail in the skull and the crossbones in the bridle for the horse is just amazing. And it's just, it's an amazing copy. But I can just tell that there's, especially with the text, that it's different. That it's like a reproduction. Temperance. With all those feathers. Oh, that's fun. This is fascinating. The feathers in the newer one are way more distinct. It's like they lightened them up so that they're not sort of a mishmash, which is what you have kind of in the older card. So I think I like Temperance better in the newer deck, to be frankly honest. I find that interesting. Temperance is another one of those cards that I have frequently come up in my deck. Of course, I need balance, but we all need balance. Oh, iconic devil card. Looks like it's just slightly darker in some places, but not a lot of difference. The back is more washed out in this one, and it's more pitch black in this one. Which is interesting because a lot of the cards seemed darker in the old one, and in the new one they seemed lighter. This one they seem to have gone much darker with the black in the background for the newer set. And the chains in this one seem gray. The chains in this one seem white. And even the wings seem like a darker color in here than this one, but not by much. All right, so we are in the last bit. This is the Tower card, so we're almost finished with this particular video. I'm not going to go into the whole set of cards, but I love the Tower card in general. I mean, it's terrifying to get it in a reading, but just the imagery. You have the crown on top, and you have the lightning bolt, and you've got these people that are way bigger than the tower falling out of it. So it's like they've fallen a long way, and the crown is way too big to be on top of a tower. And there's flames. But the lightning strike is just happening now, which means that it seems to me like the tower was already on fire when it was struck by lightning. And again, you've got a darker background in the newer one, and in the original it's more of a washed color. The clouds seem lighter, they seem more dark in this one. And there's a lighter hair color on this falling figure than this falling figure. Oddly enough, the oval card makes the blue falling figure way lighter and softer. It's more contrast in the newer deck. All right, almost finished. We only got a few cards left. Ooh. Let's see about this star card. Now, reds in most of this deck have seemed a little bit darker. This one, there's no difference. There's sort of a reddish bird in the background, and it's much lighter in the newer deck. But the blue is much lighter in the old card than this one. It's more of a vibrant blue, and this is more of like a baby blue. I find that utterly fascinating. And it doesn't seem like, man, it seems like the cards in the newer deck, if you look at the ripples in the water, I don't know if you can see it, but this bottom ripple, it disappears in the newer card, and you can see the whole ripple in the older card. And I find that fascinating. In fact, that one is the last ripple there. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This one has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a last one toward the bottom there that isn't seen at all in the new card. So I do think if I looked at these cards more closely, I would see that a lot of the bottoms are cut off very slightly. We're talking like a fraction of a millimeter. So this one too, part of the tail on the scorpion here. Or is that a crab? Maybe that's a lobster. I think that's a lobster. Part of the lobster is missing in the new card. And you can see the complete tail in the old card. I'm really fascinated by the coloring in this too. You have the blues, way more of a baby blue, more of a sky blue, a bit brighter. All right, this is the moon card, which means we are almost finished. Now the sun's got a lot of red, and so for the entire deck we've seen the red in this one be darker. This one's got more orange in this blanket or whatever he's doing, so you can see definitely darker in this card, in the older card. But, and again, the blue is more blue in this one, and it's more of a light blue in this one. Can't see that they cut off the bottom in that one at all, though. Looks about the same. Looks like almost all the cards have a little bit missing. You tell the box in this one has very little there, and this one has a little bit more on the bottom. Again, it's only by a fraction of an inch. And the red in this one is much darker. The wings are much darker. The red cross flag is much darker. But I don't see much other differences. I really do think it's amazing that brand new cards and 50-year-old cards are almost identical. You know what I've just thought of? Wow, this is way more peachy. You can even see it on the screen. I think I'm gonna go through the book real quick too and see if there's much difference in the previously published book. Now we've got a head, an eagle, a bull, and a lion like we did. Which card was that? Justice? Which one of the cards has that particular setup? I know, I have one. Oh, the Wheel of Fortune. You've got an angel, an eagle, a bull head, and a lion. You've got the same thing in the world. Oh. Just looking through these cards, I've now noticed that there's symbolism that carries from one card to another. Fascinating. All right. So, let's give ourselves a quick look at the differences in the books. The old book has the Magician on front, and the new book has the Empress. This is Samuel Weiser Incorporated, created this particular deck in Broadway, New York. And this was Stamford, Connecticut in the United States. But the introduction by Stuart R. Camplin looks to be exactly the same. Dr. Edward White, 1857 through 1942, was a genuine scholar of occultism whose published works include The Holy Cabal and the Key to the Tarot, first issued in England in 1910. Wyatt utilizes the symbolism as the key to the tarot pack. In this Key to the Tarot, he writes, the true tarot is symbolism. It speaks no other language and offers no other signs. What are tarot cards about? Which Wyatt so skillfully writes. What is the message of each card? And then, where did these fascinating cardboard symbols first originate? So it looks like much of the original forward is the same. We'll pick some cards, see if they change the wording on any of these. So let's pick, look, they put the Fool at the bottom for both of them, which is great. No, they didn't. They put the Fool at 20, 21, and then it went 20. They put it before 21. Well, this is interesting. This is definitely a difference. They put 20, 0, and then 21. So the Fool in the old deck was between 20 and 21. And this one, the Fool, is after 21. I find that fascinating. All right, so let's look at the Fool. Folly, mania, extravagance. This one says intoxication, delirium, frenzy, bereavement, reversal, negligence, absence, distribution, carelessness, apathy, nullity, and vanity. So the readings for the Fool card in both decks is absolutely 100% the exact same. In fact, it looks like they have the same punctuation as well. I think after each card they have a period in the old deck, but other than that, it looks like they're downright the same. I mean, the text itself is different. You've definitely got different fonts from book to book, but they've made a concerted effort to be almost identical. So the Lesser Arcana starts with Wands in both books. It goes to Cups. And then Swords in both books. And of course the last major arcana would be Pentacles. I find this fascinating that this is the same deck made by two different companies a long time apart, and so much has, you know, remained intact. So I have to say that the Rider Waite Tarot Deck really honestly deserves its place as the sort of standard for tarot decks. I am going to show you a lot of other beautiful tarot decks, but I wanted to do this one first because I want to show you why everyone considers Rider Waite to be absolutely standard. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you learned something, and if you want to watch more of my tarot videos, which will be coming up, and tea leaf reading videos and bracelet charm making, click that subscribe button. My puppy is absolutely wiped, and it's just about time for bed, so I'm going to sign off here. Good night.